I know how it feel to be down on your luck like Andrew. I'm trying to run up the rest of my back.
Oh yeah, this is a good one. Can you go into what exactly it means to go on tilt? Absolutely. From the beginning stages of my trading career, I was an expert on going on tilt. The term tilt actually comes from gambling, and the reference that it has is when you completely abandon your logical strategy and start basing all of your decisions off of your emotion. A good example of this in trading would be ignoring your stop loss and averaging down on a position because you don't want to admit that you were wrong. Now, going on tilt is scary, so let's talk about things that you can do to prevent yourself from going on tilt. My first and biggest piece of advice, honestly, is when you start to feel any of the emotions of abandoning your strategy, physically stand up and take a step back from your desk. The process of standing up and taking a step back will actually allow your brain to breathe for a second and stop focusing solely on the money that you are losing in that moment. By taking a step back, we're able to trick our brains into rethinking what is happening and ultimately make a more logic-based decision. At the end of the day, trading really is about avoiding going on tilt.
You've just described the way of managing emotions. If you have a specific approach and it gives you specific entries, and you always have a risk control to those entries, and you have the discipline to do the entry and the exit exactly as dictated by your approach, which has a proven edge over time, well, what you've done is you've addressed the potential psychological weakness that people have in trading. You've kind of defined it away because you're not letting emotions enter into the equation. So in that case, psychology no longer becomes important because you've set up the methodology to eliminate emotions from trading.
We admire people who make good decisions under pressure, but that's not a stroke of good luck. That's something they train and practice for. The Stoics practice what they call premeditatio malorum, or a premeditation of evils. If you went in for an operation and it didn't go well and you died, they would do a post-mortem. And they would learn from that. And that's great for everyone but you. You want them to do a pre-mortem. What are the things that could go wrong, and what do we do if that happens? That's what a pre-mortem is about. Why didn't the launch go well? What did the patient struggle with? What didn't we think about? So the Stoics try to actively meditate on and train for high stress, difficult, emotionally valent situations. Seneca says, rehearse them in your mind. Exile, torture, war, shipwreck, all of it should be before your eyes. So the one excuse a leader cannot ever say is, wow, I didn't think that would happen. That's your job. Your job is to think about what you would do if that would happen.
Hi, this is the 3-Minute Trading Coach. I'm Brett Steenbarger, and today we're going to be talking about the topic of how to avoid trading on tilt. Now, what does that mean, trading on tilt? That is a phrase that traders use when our emotions get so ahead of us, when our emotions so take over that we're like a pinball machine going crazy. We end up reacting to the feelings of the moment rather than on our best trading. And as a result, we can end up making some bad trading decisions, both with respect to risk and with respect to our ideas. All of us know what tilt feels like. I certainly have had that experience in my trading. It happens when our egos get so wrapped up in an idea that we need for the idea to work out. And so we end up battling and staying in a trade and adding to losing positions because it's no longer about what the market is doing. It's about what I need, what I want. It's all about me, that ego. And as a result, when we are ego-laden, we end up making reactive decisions. And we end up being relatively tone deaf with respect to what the market does. One very reliable way of avoiding this ego involvement is to actively plan to be wrong with our trades before we place those trades. In other words, we want to actively visualize the scenario of what will I do if this position goes against me? What would tell me that this trade is the wrong trade for right now? So we are mentally rehearsing being wrong. We're putting our stop in the book. We're preparing to be wrong, which means that we're accepting being wrong. Our first thought should not be about being right and how much money I could make. Our first thoughts should be about risk reward. This is a game of probabilities. This idea may feel right, but could be wrong. What will tell me it's wrong? What will I do if it goes against me in these different ways? If we are planning for being wrong, accepting being wrong, we're not going to be in that me battling mode. If you look on my blog site, Trader Feed, you'll find a link to the blog book I wrote, which is called Radical Renewal. And it's all about techniques for overcoming the ego so that we can trade from what I call the soul, from what we know internally. The best way to avoid trading on tilt is humility, accepting the possibility and the eventual inevitability of being wrong. It's ironic, when we most accept being wrong, we end up trading at our best. This has been the 3-Minute Trading Coach. Thank you for listening.
So this is one of the easiest mistakes to make that actually puts a lot of traders on tilt. So you enter a trade. It starts to go in your favor quickly. It doesn't get anywhere near your target, but then really quickly, almost faster than you expect, it actually goes against you. What it means is the idea you had is wrong. The fact that it tried to work, it gave us that glimmer of hope, maybe even a false sense of possibility for that trade. But that hope was taken away, and it'll turn into frustration for many traders. That frustration tends to be the most common reason for going on tilt.
It's not so much about forcing yourself to not f***ing tilt. I think it's more about setting up these things so you don't even get to that point. 2 trades a day, easy. This size, because this too big size makes me tilt. Check in if you had a good sleep. If you haven't had good sleep, don't trade. If you're not feeling good, don't trade. If you have a big event after the trading session, or you're stressed until tomorrow, you're stressed at work, don't trade. There's so many things that you can literally delete probably 90% of all the tilt stuff by just being focused and at a mindset of a peak performance mindset. Not too lazy, not too stressed. Yeah, having the full stop out, having a set TP, having a set stop loss. Everything that can just make it simple for you to trade.
How I set the rules with myself. I said that, if I hadn't earned the privilege to trade, then I'm not allowed to be trading. It's like it's your boss coming down on you and saying, hey, you can't trade today. You didn't earn the right. You're breaking the rules. You're in a trade right now you know you shouldn't, you darn well shouldn't be in. Even if you're up in that trade, you got to close that trade because you didn't earn the right to trade. You know that you're on tilt and you shouldn't be trading right now. Getting up and walking away was my big solution for that. One of the hardest things is when you're in that moment, and you are just tilting like a mother scratcher, it's just like one of those things where you can't see anything else. For me, I had tunnel vision. I'm looking at those trades and I'm saying, I need this. You're like a trading junkie. It's horrible. When that tilt gets a hold of you, nothing else in the world matters. All that matters is you want to get even, you want to win this trade. You turn into a nasty, awful person. And if you can't get your arms around that person, they're going to run rampant and they're just going to destroy you. And for me, that's what was happening. I was getting destroyed by that person that came out from within me, that tilting fiend that needed to trade and needed to put on risk.
Consistency with your strategy and consistency with trading will give you consistency with profitability. One of the biggest things that I had to understand with my strategy is that I'm going to take more losses than I am wins because it's a trend line and support and resistance strategy, but my wins are going to be bigger. And another thing that I had to understand is that if I'm not consistent with my strategy and consistent with my trading, I won't be able to capitalize on those bigger wins and I'll just be racking up these losses. It's a very interesting dynamic.
Once you start to get profitable, what was that one thing that was really hard to get over.
It's just over trading, right? Even if you have all this fundamental knowledge, even if you have your technical so sharp, when that demon comes on top of your shoulder after you even take a winning trade to say go get more, or you just took a losing trade and it says no, you can get it back next trade, that's what really hurts people.
Stop.
Actually,
The guys ask me all the time, bro, Raja, like I can't even if I open my inbox now, it's gonna be like hundreds of messages. How can I stop over trading? Stop.
And then you just start to realize, like, none of that matters. It really is not that big of a deal. One trading day isn't going to change your life. I still get FOMO a little bit from time to time. Like last Monday was far away from a trading terminal, outside of my phone, of course. I missed a big flush, and it was a great flush. It was my type of trade. It was something I would have traded. It was frustrating for me. What was my antidote for that? I skipped the next trading day in my XFAs. So Monday came and went. I was super frustrated about missing the trade. Obviously, you know, I don't have FOMO in the sense where I used to, where it's like you're just rushing to trade whatever the heck you can because you're so mad you missed a move. But no, my antidote for that was Tuesday. I said, I'm not going to trade my XFAs. Didn't trade my XFAs on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, back-to-back bangers nonstop. And I ended up finishing my week, I don't know, with like $20,000 in profit, if not more. And so that was my antidote, and it works. And these are practices that I've developed over the years of trial and error. And the reason why I share these stories with you folks is that I know how nasty it can be. I know how disgusting these things get.